A mastermind is an opportunity for a small group of individuals to get together on a regular basis. And it's sort of like groupthink a little bit. It's solving problems collectively together. It's sharing challenges, leveraging the wisdom and the knowledge of the other people that are in the room to help solve problems, brainstorm ideas, think differently about what we see as challenges, what perspective I'm taking, and to be in a really safe space where without judgment and there's no hierarchy, you're just there to support each other in becoming wiser, more efficient, more thoughtful, better communicators, and you don't feel so alone.
Welcome to Medical Money Matters, the podcast where you can find experts, answers, and resources so that you can achieve mastery over the financial and business aspects of your practice. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Medical Money Matters. I am joined today by Shandy Welch, nurse practitioner by training, and now executive coach and Mastermind Group facilitator. Shandy, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Jill. I'm excited for this conversation.
I am too. And with that, I would love to jump in. I'd love it if you would share with our audience a bit of your background in healthcare, some of your journey, and then how you evolved into your current role and your current work.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I started about 20. I hate that question because it was about 25 years ago.
Talk about those numbers.
No, sorry.
Yeah,
a little bit ago. As a nurse practitioner. So I have been in Portland for most of my career and worked for Providence and had a great whole run for a very long time. And my job was to develop programs specifically in the orthopedic arena to develop teams around total joint and trauma care. So I would clinically see all the patients that came in and manage their medical conditions, but also develop the teams that now exist today. So yeah, very exciting. We spread those programs throughout all of Providence system-wide. So it was great. And I would say about, 7 or 8 years ago, I was blessed to be not only a clinician, but also in an administrative role. And so I was able to be sitting at the table and not only looking through the lens of a clinician, but also through the administrative lens. And what I was finding is this big disconnect between not only even as simple as the vocabulary being used, but the approaches of how people wanted to get things done and how we were all navigating for the ultimate same outcome, which was best patient care and trying to be thoughtful about finances and budgets and all that. But people didn't always understand how to communicate with each other really well and how to lead their teams so that we were having really successful outcomes. So as I was watching this all happen before me and I was part of it, I realized there was a huge opportunity there. And that's what led me into the executive coaching whole area, specifically around leadership and how to not only personally lead teams more effectively, but how to work with individuals and communicate what your needs are and advocate on behalf of patients or your colleagues so that we can all have more and greater success.
That is wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you do. I'm fascinated every time we talk about what you do. Amazing work. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit, and our topic for today is really mastermind groups. I'd love to have you talk a bit about those and how you facilitate them. And then maybe as a follow-on, what our physicians and administrators in the audience could expect from being a part of one.
Yes. Well, and this whole concept of mastermind, I would say probably 6 or 7 years ago, was completely new to me. So I want to start by just level setting what a mastermind is, because I think in a lot of times clinicians have never experienced them or had the opportunity to be a part of them. Many times business leaders have. So, and it's for anybody. It's basically just a very high level is an opportunity for people, like-minded, drive, curiosity and interest to come together. And they don't even have to be of the same industry necessarily. And I think it's really actually very exciting when they're not, because there's so much overlap. And in medicine, we can get very tunnel visioned as to what are opportunities out there and what does innovation look like. And we can learn from lots of different industries. So a mastermind is an opportunity for a small group of individuals to get together on a regular basis. And it's sort of like groupthink a little bit. It's solving problems collectively together. It's sharing challenges, leveraging the wisdom and the knowledge of the other people that are in the room to help solve problems, brainstorms ideas, think differently about what we see as challenges, what perspective I'm taking, and to be in a really safe space where without judgment, and there's no hierarchy, you're just there to support each other in becoming wiser, more efficient, more thoughtful, better communicators, and you don't feel so alone. So that's what a mastermind is. And then there's different nuances, whether there's skill building in it or things like that, that changes from group to group. But that's in general what it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
No,
now I'm trying
to talk about what to expect out of it. I want to pause for a minute because you said something interesting about, sort of group think and problem solving and really leaning on the wisdom. And I imagine that requires a lot of trust and a lot of work on your part as the facilitator to create that safe space. So can you talk about that a little bit? What are the mechanics of that and how do you work through that?
Yeah. It's a really special opportunity, I think. And I have been amazed. I mean, I always bought into the idea of a mastermind. I know it's a great thing, but I am continually shocked by how powerful it is for the participants every time we do these. And I think the common theme is that it's so rare that you can develop a relationship with people that is void of judgment, that is really, think of how many other relationships do we have in our lives that there's usually always some sort of competing agenda of some sort.
Yeah.
And this is a space that we provide that there is no competing agenda other than supporting whatever success looks like to you. And that's very similar to individual coaching that I do. But I think it really works in harmony with individual coaching is getting together because you now have other people's perspectives of what we might have taken for granted when we just talked to one person, or what we've always done it this way, is to invite other people to share, how does this land for me? Or when I was in this type of situation, this worked really well and this didn't. Have you considered the, ethnic component to that, the cultural component to that, the gender component, whatever. It just stretches you to think way bigger than you ever probably have thought about before. And to do it amidst they become friends is pretty powerful. It's wonderful.
I love it. Thank you for clarifying all of that. I can say I have been a part of a mastermind group for about 10 years, and it's a group that has common business interests too. So there's a reason the group has continued meeting, but probably what I get most from it is that notion that they're pulling me to bigger things. They encourage me to think bigger and all that different perspective around the table. People of varying different ages, background, genders, all that. And all of a sudden, it's like I've got almost like a board of advisors for whatever it is I'm trying to do. And sometimes they're telling me, that's a great idea, but had you thought about this?
Yeah.
Or multiply that idea times 5 or times 50 and see where it takes you. So I've been so impressed by that. And to your comment to me earlier about how you're just amazed and surprised by what comes out of the groups.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, And it made me think about, just when you were saying that, is when we all have our formal education, we learn in our textbooks. But as you become what I like to think is wiser and a wiser clinician or administrator, what you realize is what is making you so successful right now is not a lot of what you can find exactly verbatim in a book. Most of the time, what makes you successful is the things you've learned from other people, the nuances of communication, of behavior, of scenarios, of doing it enough times and taking small little bits of knowledge along the way. So now imagine being in a group of, let's say, 8 people where you have 150 years of that knowledge that is focused on you and with the only intent in supporting your growth. Can you imagine the trajectory of your learning? It just like skyrockets of how you can think differently, which is not in a book anywhere.
Right.
So it's very powerful.
It's almost like you're tapping this mother lode of experience.
Yeah.
And what fun. What do you see people accomplishing? Like, give us some examples of where you've seen people really bend their trajectory.
Yeah, I would say, well, I mean, I've seen people get jobs either work for each other, which is pretty cool. That happens. That doesn't happen as much for sure. But develop the confidence is the word that when you asked me that question that came into my mind, is recognizing that your challenges are not solely yours, that we're not so unique. So normalizing that the struggles we're having, other people are going through them as well. You don't need to do it alone. You're not crazy. I hear that all the time. Just tell me I'm not crazy. I'm like, you're not crazy. I've heard this 4 times this week from other people. And so for people to recognize that they have these skills within them, but sometimes they just need to sort of vet them out with other people. And so the confidence to be able to have these conversations, you also have a little bit of a cheering squad behind you, to come back 2 weeks later and say, I just want to give you an update. I did do those things we talked about and it really worked well. And, it can be very lonely. Leadership can be a very, very lonely sport. And to feel that you have a group of people that care deeply about your success and want to go on this path with you, and that are holding you accountable to push yourself a little further. And that's a huge piece as well. There's been a lot of research on that, of the increase in performance level.
Yeah.
For people that are
with that shared accountability. Talk a little more about that as a mechanism.
Yeah.
I love that. Sort of the notion of an accountability partner, an accountability buddy. Yeah.
Yes. And it's funny because I wouldn't say that it's certainly our masterminds and my coaching. It's not, Jill, what did you do? Did you follow up on the things that you're talking about?
Right.
It's not. It's saying, I want to support you in being successful. And why don't you tell me what that looks like for you? And then what do you want to do? And if you're having barriers, let's talk about it. And what do you think you can do next week? And let's just do small little jumps of things. We don't have to, do these massive leaps. Right. But when you're about to get on the call again, you think, got to do that. One, because that's just our own internal drive, right?
Yeah.
We can share these successes, and the research behind the movement that creates is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
And, we all do it, right? You sometimes need a little bit of a kick from somebody else, right? Or else we put it off.
I know I do better when I know I'm going to go sit that meeting next week, and I want to have something to share. Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to ask me about it.
Exactly. Well, and I think the act of having someone just hold space for your success, however you stated that.
Yes.
Very powerful.
Yes. It is very powerful.
It strikes me there's also what I would consider a fun reciprocal experience too, in that you have this whole group, like you say, 6 or 8 people or more that are holding space for you and helping you be accountable to what you've said are your goals. And you also get to do that for them. I think that's...
Yeah.
And it strikes me that's a space, and I know my experience with groups like this, that's the space where their relationships really take hold and they really build. Is just being a stand for each other's success.
And a lot of people connect offline, in between, which is great, which is not, we don't ask of people to do that. But, I certainly always say I'm not only going to show up on these masterminds, these set dates that we're doing this, but I'm also here to support you and partner with you, walk beside you for this whole 6 months. So keep these ideas front and center in your head. And the more you can practice them and the more you can lean on other people, the more confidence you're going to have. Again, when you feel like you're alone with things that are challenging, it's really easy to look down and just focus on that, as opposed to looking up and looking out and realizing that you are capable of so much more than you ever thought was possible. And that's the idea, is to get people to get a little taste of that. And then it just creates momentum for more.
It sounds wonderful. So talk a little bit about the mechanics of how the groups actually work. How many people, how often? How would our audience go about finding one? That's another question.
Yes. There's lots of different masterminds. And I think one good thing to think about is, what is it that you want out of it? Some people want very much skill building around something. Some people want more networking. It's whatever. But so if you're looking for some sort of group, I think it's important to spend a little bit of time thinking, what is the best case scenario? What am I hoping for? And what's going to motivate me to show up every time? The masterminds that we do, I like to keep them only to about 8 to 10 people. And I think that's the best, a smaller group so that everyone can participate. Usually there's someone that doesn't show because they have a conflict of some sort. So you want to accommodate for that. But that there's enough diverse perspectives that you can be challenged, but also enough that everybody can speak and feels like they're participating, as opposed to it's a big group and they're being lectured at, or they don't feel as involved. So I think the size is important. And, as I said at the beginning of this, it's always interesting of whether or not you have sort of cross specialty, not necessarily medical specialty, but medicine, tech, marketing, sales, whatever. And I've done both. I've facilitated both. And I think actually sometimes some of the most interesting conversations are cross industry.
Absolutely.
Because we find there's so much we don't know, all of us.
And you have positive naivete there, right? Like somebody in a tech company wouldn't necessarily understand everything the way we do in healthcare, but they will ask really positive, naive questions that might give you a whole nother path to run down that you might not have occurred to you before.
I love that term of yours, positive naivete. How do you say it again?
Positive naivete. Yeah.
Are you? Hey, yes. Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's true. It's asking those questions that sometimes to one person may seem really obvious, but is not. Absolutely is not. And it pushes you to think differently.
We're all in our own industry silos, right? And we're all drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, we've been doing it this way for so long.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to have a fresh perspective. And just to see how others approach an issue or an opportunity or a problem to be solved.
Yeah.
I love the richness of that sort of, the across industries.
Yeah.
I think it's something good for us to consider. Healthcare does tend to be somewhat insular, and
it does.
Your head up, as you said, and looking out and saying there's a much bigger world here, and
people
Yeah.
engaged in different opportunities or solving different problems.
Yeah.
We have a lot to add to our industry, our group think, however that goes in healthcare. So
absolutely.
Do you have some fun stories you might want to share, leaving out all names, but just, things that you've seen people go to work together, which I think is a phenomenal outcome.
Yes.
What else? Where have you seen people? What are some stories?
Oh my goodness. I'm on the spot here. What are some stories? I think it's the surprising, I can't think of one like specific event, but the transformation of people in not only, it's almost like physical. You see them holding themselves differently. You see them, instead of asking, sort of putting a question mark behind their sentences, that they become more statements with a period. They have this, they're coming into understanding their own self-worth because they're being recognized in a different way. That that is not uncommon, I will say, for one. And it's so much fun to watch that happen. And they don't even it's very subtle, but they start recognizing that they are worth the conversation. They are worth the exploration with either a colleague, and now they have the skill and confidence to do it. And then just watch them come back and talk about the outcomes, and then having them say, you know what, I'm going to go for that other job, or I asked for the promotion and I got it. That has definitely happened. So that is not why they came into the mastermind. That was not the thought. They didn't have that goal in mind, but they started realizing, I can do this too. Or, I have the skills within, and I can start seeing what's holding me back. And then we can start exploring, well, what would that look like if it didn't hold it back? What is it? Because you don't know how to say it? You don't have the skills? Is it confidence? What is it? And once you can get people around that, then it's just phenomenal what happens. So there's been a lot of those kind of things that people have gotten promoted, people have gotten grants, people have advanced their careers and their projects forward in a way that was not the focus of what they came into, that it just happened because of these conversations. And it's pretty remarkable.
I love that notion of them getting for themselves that they're worth the exploration and they're worth the conversation. Frequently, I think, especially for women, not to make it a sexist comment, but that we tend to undervalue our contribution and our work, and to see that be valued by the group suddenly in a different way. And like you say, that can be a very iterative, experience, and also an iterative sort of blossoming, if you will. To this, there's this realization here, and it must be fun to see the breakthroughs for people.
It's really fun. Yes, it's really fun because it's also so unexpected. They're not conscious of that's a barrier that they have. And so very subtly it gets removed, and in a really thoughtful way, they start owning everything that they are. And what's better than that? To watch people recognize their own abilities and strengths and have confidence and ask for what they want in a way that moves them into a direction that they never thought was possible, but they always dreamed of. I mean, that's it, right?
Probably some things that they never dreamed of, but all of a sudden it looks possible. So there it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like you said, not something they were even aiming for when they joined the mastermind, but
no.
Awesome. Life has a different trajectory.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what's interesting is not only in mastermind, but in individual coaching, of how many people decide to leave their job which was not why they went into coaching or the mastermind. But it again goes back to what you highlighted. It's they start to recognize their own self-worth. And I think if there's one thing that I've noticed through all these years is whether it's men or women, it does not matter, is something happens when we get older, that gets pushed down. And we do the job and we do a great job at whatever our tasks are, but we stop allowing ourselves to dream, and we stop allowing ourselves to believe that we are capable and worthy of the next step. And sometimes it takes other people to say, you're crazy if you don't go for that. How do you not see that within yourself? Like, that's so obvious to me. And to give people the boost to be able to say, like, okay, I'm going to give this a try.
Yeah.
And what's the worst going to happen, right? It's okay. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I love being in those environments where you have people who have big listening for you as an individual. I think that's so powerful to be in that space.
Yes.
People see you in a different light than maybe you see yourself.
Yes.
Having that ability inside of a group, and then to get to turn around and again return that favor to the other members of the group. That's something I've often really enjoyed because sometimes it can be uncomfortable. Like, you're learning these new things about yourself, this new list of things that you could dream. Like you say, we stop dreaming. Someone said to me once, it's possible that your wanter is broken. Maybe you should
fix that. Consider fixing that. Yeah.
Consider fixing your wanter. You should really want some things. And we do. Sometimes we get to an age and you sort of start to coast, and it's kind of fun to fire that wanter up again. Say, what else?
Fire it up.
What else do I want to be doing? Yeah. Well, flip side of that, you and I talked a little bit earlier about a loss of agency, or a feeling of a lack of agency. We've also, we talk about it as burnout. We talk about it as moral injury, especially in healthcare. Talk a little bit about, kind of walking with people through that, either in the coaching or in the mastermind groups, and coming back from that, and maybe what the mastermind provides folks that need to work through issues like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's such in one sense, a hot topic, and it's an important topic is burnout. And I think that holds a lot of meaning in different ways for different people. But what you and I were talking about, I think fundamentally, people feel overwhelmed, moral injury, burnout, when they feel that they are at the effect of something or other people, and they have no agency to be able to move the needle and have any control of what is happening next. And when we feel that we are just it's almost like you're the punching bag. You just keep getting hit, and all you can do is try to stand up again, and then you're going to get hit again. That's not what any of us signed up for. But if we feel that when we get up, we're actually something greater than ourselves, then it's going to give us more energy to stand up again. I don't think burnout is people don't want to work hard, or people, long hours, or we don't like our work. I've not talked to one clinician yet who says, I hate seeing patients, and I hate medicine. I want to get out. Not one. It's, I so desperately want to do the work, and there's so many obstacles in the way of me and my patient. And that is the burnout, that space. And so a lot of what, I talk about individually with coaching or within a mastermind, if that's the topic of conversation, is what are the things that you can control? Because there are more things that we can control than I think people think about. And then how do I do that? And what part in that relationship do I want to play? Because there's some things that are non-negotiable. At the end of the day, you may be employed by an organization. So you do have to play by some of those rules. But you also can be a change agent. and standing up and really advocating to say, I want to make things different so that we can do more of whatever that is that we are signed up to do. And being more solution oriented and giving people the confidence to know that they have it within themselves and the tools, or giving them the tools and teaching them of how to have those conversations so that they don't feel as at effect. Because it's not a great place to be.
No, absolutely.
No.
Steering clear of that, or helping people back from that when they feel like they really have a loss of control or loss of agency. I hear that a lot from clinicians. And I think that's at the root of a lot of the pushback that people experience if they're trying to affect change. We also have a fair bit, I think we have a fair bit of change fatigue, just, over the past 4.5 years that folks are still processing a lot. But I could just see so many positive outcomes from a structure like this one. So is there anything else that you would like to share? I have loved this whole conversation. I'd love to
good.
Wrap it up.
Thank you. No, I would just say it's an investment in joining a mastermind or coaching. It's a gift to yourself. It really is. It's an investment in yourself the same way we all invested in ourselves for education and things like that. It's a different type of gift, but it is absolutely no less powerful. And it will have such substantial changes and effects to your life moving forward. And so I'd encourage people, if they are in a position that they can do that or their organization would support them, to even just check it out, if nothing else. But it's pretty powerful. And we have so many repeat customers. They're not really. Yeah. That in itself is what's always a little bit shocking to me, is that it inspires people in a way that is indicative of our culture, I think, of that people needing connection and wanting connection, and how powerful that is when you can find that. So I would just ask people to invest in themselves, whatever that looks like. And as I was telling you, it just so happens that we have a mastermind. We have 2 more slots open for this group that's going to be starting in mid-September. So if anybody this would like to become a part, my information will be, it sounds like, added on this podcast.
Put it in the show notes so anybody listening can find that and can find Shandy. Do you want to say your website as well? That would be perfect.
Yeah. So it's just shandywelch.com. ShandyWelch.com. Yeah. And I will say I co-facilitated with Carl Peaster, who a lot of people know in the Portland area, and he's a coach. So he and I have worked together for a long time, and we do these. And then we'll be starting another mastermind as well. But this one in September has 2 more slots. So we'd love to see anybody. Yeah.
And people who've been listening will have heard Carl several episodes back. We did a whole episode on coaching and why a physician or an administrator might want to coach. So I think this has been a perfect conversation about mastermind groups. Shandy, thank you. You are inspiring me to look for another one too. I've had this one for years, which has served well and has been beautiful and is one of my favorite meetings every month. And so many great long-term friendships as a part of that group too. But so much encouragement to, like you say, to try bigger things.
Yeah.
I love that whole construct of it. So highly encourage anyone who's tuning in to think about, I love that notion of a gift to yourself. So Shandy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Code Mastery. Unlock your revenue. Get paid more, reduce coding headaches, and win the coding game. Code Mastery is a program that is designed by physicians for physicians. Commit a small amount of time and effort to learning how to master the coding game and make a huge impact on your bottom line. Information is available at www.healtheps.com.